now talk to Daniel Shaw, a professor of Latin American and Caribbean Studies at the City University of New York. Professor Shaw, welcome to RT. Good to have you on the show. What do you make of the claims from WikiLeaks of presidential candidates Lasso's links to the US?
Well, certainly tomorrow, Ecuador's fate and really the fate of all of Latin America, it's a crucial moment. Guillermo Lasso has promised that if he wins, then Julian Assange will be expelled from the embassy. Julian Assange and WikiLeaks have functioned as a giant monkey wrench in the everyday machinations of the CIA and U.S. imperialism, and they're used to just trotting around the globe doing whatever they want in sovereign, quote-unquote, sovereign countries. So Assange is one of their #1 public enemies.
The US likes to point the finger, as we know, and accuse other countries of meddling if they think they've got the suspicions to do so. Do you think these revelations show it to be somewhat hypocritical?
Yeah, the U.S. has such a long history of meddling in Latin American countries, from Chile to Nicaragua to Venezuela to Ecuador. It's no secret the role of the National Endowment for Democracy and U.S. aid and the NGOs and the role they've played in Ecuador, working closely with the opposition candidate. They're against what Rafael Correa and Lenín Moreno represent. Correa very historically and heroically insisted that the U.S. close their military base in Manta, kicked out many U.S. diplomats with links to the CIA, and his function as another anti-imperialist in Latin America. And this is the reason they're against him.
Yeah, if Lasso's promising to evict Assange from Ecuador's embassy, what do you think that might do if he wins and makes good on that promise? What do you think that would do to Ecuador's international standing?
Well, Julian Assange's fate really hinges on what happens in the next 24 hours. If Assange is expelled from the embassy, he'll immediately be accosted by police in London and sentenced, and the U.S. will try to have their way with him. Again, they're not used to any type of surveillance or anybody exposing their covert machinations into other countries' electoral systems. So really the world is standing in solidarity with Assange and with Alianza País and Lenín Moreno tomorrow in Ecuador.
What about American influence in, well, US influence rather, in Latin America nowadays? I know it's kind of shifting sands. It depends what day of the month it is, really, doesn't it? But what standing has it got at the moment?
Well, for example, Venezuela, a country that broke free from U.S. imperialism in 1999 when the leadership of Hugo Chavez, they've done everything for the past 2 decades to interrupt any progress, advancement, or democracy, people's democracy, genuine democracy, that it can exist in Venezuela. And they've been trying to do the same thing in Ecuador. Ecuador has suffered a long history of CIA meddling. We should remember Julio Roldos and also the Panamanian Omar Torrijos. Both were very mysteriously killed in plane accidents when they were the presidents in the early 1980s of those 2 respective countries, Panama and Ecuador. And that's what we've seen in the history of Latin America. Any leader who stands up to oppose U.S. domination has become enemy #1 for the U.S. media.
Yeah, well, we'll wait to see what happens in Ecuador, which way voters choose to go. For now, though, Daniel Shaw, Professor of Latin American and Caribbean Studies at New York City University, thanks for joining us on RT.